We are live!
Hey, hi, it's Russ with Wingsaber Historical Fencing. And that's Kat's disembodied voice. I got asked a question, and I kind of blew it off at the time, then I realized, oh wait, actually that's an important question. What happens if you're a reenacting fencer, and you're interested in looking at some piece of history or heritage, and you can't hold a specific alignment that we hold, even though you have a pretty good idea that six cuts type fencing was the type of fencing used by the reenactor or the people you're reenacting. So for example, Teamlich is absolutely six cuts fencing, even though he doesn't number them quite the same way. That's just one example. If you were training the way Teamlich suggests that a cuirassier of his era trains, late 18th century. If I'm standing here and I'm going to be, say, Roworthian with my relatively refused guard, and I'm going to be cutting from the wrist, I can cover all of my lines out of the wrist. Now, how I do this safely is a matter of a different topic, and I've already blown lots of steam about how to do this without actually endangering the wrist. And guess what? It's actually less a wrist moulinet than a pull that happens on the saber while the arm twists. Great, but here's a point of rotation. Here's the system I was taught. Here's my point of rotation. Here is a certain well-known Hajduk from a certain well-known video game. Here's his point of rotation. Here's a guy with a dusak. There's his point of rotation. You may have seen this guy with a dusak if you happen to be into Kunstfechten. You've seen him before. That's Meyer's saber, badly rendered for the sake of poor sealing and not actually having a dusak on hand. The point is, here's Italian or Italo-Hungarian from the Radaelian position. Here's a point of rotation. Here's backsword. Point of rotation. There will always be some place which serves as the pivot for your actions. If you can identify where that place is, you can identify what the geometry of the fight is. So Kat, come on in. Leave the saber behind, you won't need it.
Oh, I always need it.
No, you don't need it. Kat's gonna step back slightly, and she's gonna give me a cut one on the way our system does it. That's my counter cut if I'm being the Hajduk guy.
I got hit.
She's gonna make cut one. That's my counter cut if I'm doing our system. There's the counter cut if I'm doing Wade. Slightly collapsed. There's the counter cut and parry if I'm doing it Italo-Hungarian. There's the counter cut and parry if I'm doing Arlo's high tiers. At every single point, my actions changed because the geometry imposed by the location of my pivot point changed. Or, same thing. There's my counter cut if I'm playing backsword. Bang. Big heavy basket, arm stops. Yeah, right. Sword goes flying. Ow, wrist. Those things are heavy.
Yes.
So when you are looking at your system as a reenactor, maybe I'm doing matrak, Balkan style matrak. Here's my saber up here.
That's cool.
Shout out to my buddy in Minnesota who has been reconstructing this. Well, my sword, my shield positions are here. My saber positions are here. Well, what can I do? Pow.
Blip.
Or same thing. Henning. With an oblique cut to the outside. She comes cutting in at the head. Pow. Take the wrist from the outside. Here's my oblique cut, which you also see in Arlo, but delivered differently. Zunk. Very hard to complete the cut that way, especially because guess what? Someone's stepping out to the outside
Yeah,
while they do it.
when we say unhand me, that's not what we mean.
So, look at what you're doing with the geometry that your power generation imposes on you. This is especially important for reenactors who can't do all the heavy footwork. Because if Kat's here and I'm here and someone's here and we have 6 people behind me, all of whom want to get into the fray, I have minimal footwork. Ha ha! I am Italo-Hungarian who's going to crush the world based on the fact that I can reliably hit you from advanced lunge range. In this context, it no worky. Oh, and I've got a shield. Oh, and I'm actually a knight. And what I'm actually doing is manipulating tiny angles so I can get the line to distribute this. And where's my actual point of rotation? It's here. I'm shifting ever so slightly to knock out an opposing shield so I can make some clearance. Now, of course, those of you who've played SCA are going, yeah, but you're using a kite shield in that context because that's visible if you actually have the shield training. A Buhurt player would play that very differently, probably A-frame. They would be here and they'd make the hit, or come this way to make the offside hit. Where's the point of rotation? Check the film, look where I moved. Once you understand your point of rotation relative to your opponent, the point that has to stay fixed because everything else is being organized around it, you can see how to modify things on the fly. It applies unarmed as well as armed. If someone throws a punch, they rotate or they turn, or they're a center line fighter, in which case they don't, but you have to look at the internal circles that come vertically rather than laterally. We won't get into how this plays into Sabbat, but I guarantee you, if you look at your system of fencing, no matter what it is, even if you're a cosplay group, you have some place around which your cut is moving. If that's not true, you can't actually be cutting. At best, you're doing stick bonking. And punched blows suck. They're sometimes great for audiences, so if you are a stage combat guy, I'm not trash talking stage combat. It's a different system with different goals. Fencing sucks for stage combat sucks for fencing. They're like two brothers and sisters who live right next to each other, but they don't actually drive on the same street. All right, so having heard all that for the exact first time, does that give you any questions?
Nope.
All right, have fun and go do the thing with fabulous costumes.
Yay.
Not these. This is not a fabulous costume. But I do like my mint pants, so now you know that. Bye! We've got more videos and content coming, so if you liked what you saw and it was useful for you, please stab the like button, /subscribe, and punch the little bell icon so that you're notified immediately when new content comes available. Thanks, and go do the thing.